Welcome to Isports Connect's Review of the Year, where we'll be looking at the highlights of a tumultuous 12 months in world sport, what happened and why, and what it means. I'm Michael Peary, thanks for joining us. Sport continued to recover from the pandemic in 2023, filling the land, sea and air with moments of sporting greatness, despair and wonder, while the virus continued to circulate. Sport also filled cities, nations and stadiums with record post-pandemic crowds, ticket sales, broadcast and sponsorship deals, generating more than an estimated $510 billion for the global sports market. There were World Cups, World Championships and world records in many sports, and LeBron James became the NBA's all-time highest scorer. After withdrawing suddenly from the pandemic-hit Tokyo Olympic Games, mentally and physically exhausted, the American superstar Simone Biles symbolised sport's comeback from COVID, winning an unprecedented sixth all-round World Gymnastics title this year in Belgium. Storylines told of scorelines that were the difference between team triumph or defeat and national anguish or despair. Every second counted in 2023 for Kelvin Kiptum, the Canyon's record run, taking the quest for a sub-2-hour marathon from the realms of fantasy and nearer to reality for the first time. Russia's war was the backdrop to sport in 2023. Its flag banned at the first major sporting event of the year after the emblem's presence at the Australian Open angered fans, disrupted the tournament and sparked a diplomatic incident. Former IOC Vice President and British Sports Administrator Sir Craig Reedie was awarded the Olympic Order for his leadership of WADA during its landmark investigations into Russia's secret athlete doping programs, the biggest scandal in modern sporting history. Sport was often a wild ride in 2023, but Max Verstappen had the formula for success and was always a safe bet, hitting the jackpot on the Las Vegas Grand Prix circuit, Sports Gamble of the Year. Sport created big waves and a new world record by a woman who slayed this monster break off Hawaii. Women's sport reached new levels. The biggest women's sports event in history set new revenue, spectator and viewership records, and the world watched the birth of a new soccer nation live on TV as the advance of the Matildas, representing co-host Australia, became the most watched event. New heroes and sports were also breaking into the mainstream and even the Olympic Games from urban subcultures. The world governing body for women's tennis returned to China after a high-profile, high-cost boycott, but Peng Shuai was not there to welcome back her WTA colleagues. The Chinese tennis star's circumstances still remain vague after she almost vanished, taking a swipe at a senior Communist Party official for sexual abuse. There were familiar faces and outcomes. Sport was often predictable and controversial. Rafael Nadal's chronic injuries and Roger Federer's retirement ensured more Grand Slam titles for Novak Djokovic, but the polarising Serb couldn't win the universal love of the sporting public for his legendary rivals. World sport gravitated further to the Middle East. Saudi's solo green light for the FIFA World Cup transformed the secretive desert kingdom into a new sports mecca, while also triggering fears of a new sports underclass of nations lacking Saudi's vast wealth to influence and invest in premier sports events, leagues and stars. After slumping from superstar to sub at last year's World Cup, Saudi's prized football purchase was the most Googled athlete of the year, along with Messi, Kohli, Neymar and LeBron. While Ronaldo was also the world's highest paid footballer and athlete, with estimated total earnings of $260 million, Messi's record-extending 8th Ballon d'Or was priceless. Prince Harry may have retired from royal duties, but returned for another tour of duty with his Invictus Games, helping to heal and honour war-injured soldiers and athletes, symbolising sport's unconquered spirit. Sport was also A bittersweet year of hellos and goodbyes in 2023, and retirements too for some of the finest athletes of the generation. The World Game came to a rare standstill to honour and thank Sir Bobby Charlton, who transcended his times, sport and nation. Beckham was the sports documentary of the year, taking viewers behind the scenes of an extraordinary career, bending the game and the celebrity culture he created around football, and his resilient skills and personality. While Hollywood farewelled one of its best friends, the showbiz-like ending that surrounded the cave rescue of Thailand's teenage soccer team became too much for its shy, reluctant captain. The team's miraculous rescue had united the world, but the wild boar's leader could not survive the crushing weight of fame and expectation beyond the caves. The world also said goodbye, temporarily at least, to the Commonwealth Games, an international launching pad for generations of Olympic and world champions. The sudden collapse of the Melbourne high-cost 2026 regional games model sent shockwaves through world sport, while the cancellation raised concerns about the viability of similar major multi-sport and multi-nation events. Other mega-continental sporting milestones went ahead in Europe, Asia and the Americas. The climate of sport also changed. The United Nations Secretary-General warned global warming had opened the gates of hell, and athletes as well as activists called for environment protection. As well as safety of the planet, personal safety and welfare of athletes were hot topics. Patrick Mahomes filled the enormous gap left by Tom Brady, throwing like the legendary quarterback to steer the Chiefs to another Super Bowl victory. Rihanna led the halftime spectacular at the world's premier sports entertainment event, but the relationship between Taylor Swift and the Chiefs' Travis Kelce left the sports world breathless like a Swift concert. The politics of sport also changed dramatically while Paris completed its penultimate year of Olympic preparations in the shadows of Russia's war. World governing bodies helped to diminish Putin's presence and propaganda on the world stage by blocking Russian teams from international competition, in solidarity with Ukraine and the international community. The move to allow restricted access to athletes from Russia and Belarus into the Paris Games was the most controversial decision of the year, criticised by both Ukraine and Russia and leading Western nations that have helped to finance, host and globalise the Olympic Games, and which are also helping to arm and defend Ukraine, and could trigger protests against the Paris Olympics. While the IOC is still open to neutral Russian athletes in Paris, others believe sport can't be neutral to the suffering Russia has inflicted, nor its violations of Olympic peace. While Russia recently refused to endorse the Olympic truce, overwhelming support among UN nations for peace in Paris was also a statement of hope that the global sporting event can still unite the world divided by war, with or without Russia. You can follow the latest developments in world sport at isportconnect.com. I'm Michael Peary.